It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're zooming in and focusing in on really a key, crucial component to moving ahead when it comes to kind of growing and transcending through a relationship difficulty, such as emotional manipulators, toxic individuals, those individuals who are narcissistic or psychopathic. And how do we really kind of regain belief again, trust again, that juice to life, and feeling like we can live life again on better and improved terms? So that's really going to be the focus of the video, like how to love again, because it seems to be a major issue that most people, I feel, are kind of responding to. They're feeling like they've lost time, they've lost hope, they've lost footing, they've lost themselves. A whole host of situations which become, really kind of blocking and kind of creating a wall, if you will, within, and like how to really heal through it, get over it, and begin to get, feeling like normal again, like you again, like, oh my God, I haven't felt this way in so long. So it's getting back to that, like, wow, I am okay state that we're going to focus on here and understanding the why. But before we get started, excuse me, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated to the channel. Particularly, we have a very, very lovely viewer in the West Coast of the United States, in the gorgeous state of California, who has made a very generous donation here to the channel. It is with my heartfelt gratitude and thanks to receive your donation into the channel, to keep the channel alive, to feel keep the content flowing. It is such an honor and a privilege to be able to serve you and to basically have your feedback, and knowing that we're hitting home and we're making sense to you on a very realistic and applicable manner. We are all about results here. We are focused on the results. We're not focusing on, dragging through the coals, having things take longer than they should. We're here to educate you and inform you, but furthermore, arm you with what you need to kind of process this and process it for good. So that once you're on the other end, you're like, I got it, peace and harmony. So it is a huge honor and privilege to be able to present to you here, and a huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated. Love you so much. Thank you so much for your contributions. And, please know it is with much gratitude that I accept. And it has inspired me to keep the content flowing here today. So I want to kind of like move into, once again, that basically the feeling of fully functional life. And I've prepared some ideas and concepts here to present to you all. In other words, can you love again? Can you live again? Can you kind of feel kind of like everything is really okay, and I don't have to live in the same burden, the same cloak of guilt, the same cloak of fear, or the same cloak of kicking yourself, feeling down, feeling depressed, feeling like, oh my God, what happened here? And then furthermore, how to kind of like get back to where everything is you've made a clean break. Things are, clear to you. You understood what happened. You know what to look for next time. You feel like you're maybe changing up what you're attracted to. You're no longer attracted to the same type of person. Or furthermore, when you identify these kinds of people, you're able to say, okay, that's them. Those are the people who wound. Those are the people who emotionally manipulate. That is not for me anymore. And to really learn, one of the greatest, lessons of your life is kind of understanding that. Because once you've been through it, chances are, been hit hard, and you've felt the consequences, through heartache, through sleepless nights, through, lack of appetite, not being able to work, not feeling motivated, feeling scared, ashamed, and like, will I ever get back to me again and get back to normal? And so I further want to focus in right here, and to understand now that this person really does not represent you or reflect you on the levels that you need to be reflected on. In other words, because of their lack of empathy, they're not able to mirror back to you, understand, and validate your needs. They might emotionally manipulate you to feeling like you were satisfying their needs. But oftentimes in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, there is a facade. There's a persona. It's a faux. It's a persona. It's not what you see is not what you get. In other words, what the person truly feels inside is not what you get on the outside. There's a discongruency. There's a disconnect. And so you could have felt this, coming in the relationship. In other words, like, I feel that there's a little bit of disconnect in the relationship. I don't know what it is, but what's good is good. I'm just going to keep it going. And furthermore, on down the road, then you find that you're actually hurting more. You're giving more. You're sacrificing more time, more of your values. You're saying no to your work. You're saying no to your kids. You're saying no to your boss. You're starting to make a lot of sacrifices. And this person basically is taking advantage. And that's really what emotional manipulators will do. And especially when, you have then been basically lowering what you feel is appropriate for yourself. In other words, it's not appropriate for me to stay out this late, to do this and this to my kids, to do this and this at my job. You find your morals are getting lowered. And you do this in the name of love because the mental capacity starts making excuses. Well, because of this and this, this must be love. In other words, this is the one. And so, and now, because you have now seen either the pathological lies or what they've done or how they've blown you off or, done a whole tirade of things, then you're knowing better now. And you're trying to pick up the pieces and kind of put together the aha moment for yourself. And so as you begin to do this, you're going to come from a learned space. So yes, you do need to process some things. You do need to kind of rehash some things. Hence the recovery period. It's not like you just get up and, you're just going to go back out to the dating world or the married world or look at your family in the same way. There is going to take a change of perspective. Yes, these people are life changers. They are game changers. They do impact you, but we want to alchemize it so it'll be now impacting you in a positive and learned way so that basically you have made that mistake and only once. In other words, you've learned what had to be learned. So that's why I recommend it's so important for you to write that down. And when I hear people say, you give us so much more than I would get at, for example, like if I were to call my doctor and try to get care and support through this, it is very much a huge gaping, I feel there's a huge gaping hole in the healthcare industry where basically, they're not operating like one of my first dentists, he had a poster in his room, in his office, and it said, "Seek to understand, then be understood." And I kind of feel like there's oftentimes a very difficult time feeling understood when it comes to working through this. So it has been my kind of mission and passion to fill in the gaps there. I have worked extensively with this population on all sides of the gamut, so I know exactly what you're going through. And oftentimes it's a very specific niche. Not everybody gets it. They tend to just explain things away and say, well, just, it was just, there's lots of other fish in the sea. There's a gazillion billion people out there. Why, just move on. They'll just, they don't get it. They don't understand what it means to you. How the emotional manipulation, how it sets up in your perspective. In other words, you're engaging, with reality, with life, and how it changes things. And it changes your value system. And it needs to be kind of really worked through. It's not just, this just happened overnight and it's just not like a casual thing. It's a very serious thing. And, so it's like people, I find this a very serious situation. It's not laughable. Yes, we can try to have some laughs about it, but overall it's a largely and gravely serious situation. So really to forgive yourself and begin to feel like you can love again and kind of accept yourself really is that sort of like I, made a grave mistake. So it's taking that ownership right away and going, yes, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed all these aspects of it. But yet, I made some grave mistakes. And people don't want to kind of admit that. So I would encourage you to do that in the privacy of this video here. A lot of people don't want to admit that they had made any mistakes, especially in the beginning. They want to live in denial. It's like the grief stage. You want to deny it's happening. Then you want to get angry, and then you want to start getting mad at the world. And then you end up in this whole lethal ruminating state where, you're just playing the same thoughts. In other words, it just keeps going around. You're not kind of really, piecing those thoughts together and saying, really some of the key pieces to actually moving forward versus like spinning your wheels is to understand and accept, I made some grave mistakes. And for each person, there is some individual, wherever it was in the line of the relationship, where you could have listen to your little voice inside. It said, what, maybe this is too stressful. Maybe this is too much. Maybe I need to get out of here. Maybe I need to, get my feet on the road. I need to get some education together. I need to give myself some credit here. Maybe I'm not giving enough credit where credit is due. So I stuck around this relationship too long. Or, all these different things that are kind of like set up in the like, damn, where you really want to kind of kick yourself. So it's like, I don't want to say beat yourself up, but you want to have some, come to moments where you say, you know what, I have to come to some terms. And because that will allow you to come into the humility that you need to go, wow, I did kind of see what was going on, but I didn't want to pay any attention, maybe because I didn't want to be alone, or I was going to be alone too soon. I feel like I'm not ready, or maybe I'm just being too sensitive, or this is too good, I'll pay the price. Whatever it is, assessments that you made that caused you to feel even lower and lower or get further entrapped, or really furthermore, what is kind of addicted to this person. So when people tell me peace and harmony, this hurts because I'm so in love with this person. Well, I would encourage you to use the tools of metacognition, looking at what you're thinking about, and use also the cognitive tools of cognitive reframing, which means putting things in a new light. And it's saying, you know what, maybe I was not so in love with this person, because really for me to be in love, there has to be the absence of fear. There has to be the acceptance. There has to be the give and take. There has to be truth. There has to be that openness. For love to be love, there has to be an openness and an honesty. You can't really have love when everything is a lie with a person. If you have discovered, that they're cheating behind your back, disrupting your career, disrupting your family, disrupting your value system, taking advantage of your good nature, both the masculine nature as well as the feminine nature. If they've taken advantage of your, your manly nature, in other words, the man who wants to provide, to give, to be the stronger, to not care, I'll pay for your apartment. I'll pay for our next vacation. I'll pay for your kids' schooling. I'll get you a job at my workplace. All those over obligating things where you went there because you're the man, you're strong, and she just, took advantage of you on that side and, basically just took a run for it and took you to the cleaners, or took you, for naive or not seeing things or not being, and getting sort of addicted, then that was not love. As much as you want to say lessons learned, it's a tough pill to swallow, as I say, but lessons learned need to be lessons learned. Otherwise, one is deemed to repeat them again. Yes, not everyone is going to be that way, but to realize that there are people out there who will do this. And then there are some men who are saying, peace and harmony, can you please tell the woman out there to not take advantage of men? Well, I will give you this. For instead, in terms of cognitive reframing and looking at things, and you're saying, but I'm so in love and, all these good times. Okay, great. You had some wonderful, amazing times that you have experienced. These are, your takeaway moments. These are your positive experiences. If you can understand that, love wouldn't be from someone who would take blatant advantage of you in these ways. So if you can say, I'm so in love, so I encourage you to use the tools of cognitive reframing and say, wow, I had some great times, but I was really addicted. This is actually what we call, an addiction, where you start craving kind of those high moments to the point where you start doing anything, selling off the farm in order to keep the relationship going. You end up paying too much emotionally, you end up paying too much. And emotions are really one of the greatest commodities that you can ever have. Money can come and go, things of that nature. But when you talk about your emotions and your life experiences and living your life to the fullest, that's your bottom line. That's your real estate. Your experience is your real estate. And so it's kind of that, once you, especially as you get older, you realize that more and more. And so I would encourage you to use the tools of cognitive reframing and just for once, come into that space of humbleness and gratitude and say, okay, I made some grave mistakes. There could have been some things that I could have seen or noticed or done or put a stop to while this was all going on. But because in the name of love, I continue to kind of sabotage myself. And with that, I indeed just did do that. I sabotaged myself. So I have now, in my lessons learned, that it did not assist me to get, the relationship more solidified than what I wanted. So to acknowledge that, and then also to realize that you are now coming from a learned space and not an unconscious, willy-nilly space. You're coming from now a learned space when you make that assessment to yourself. I should have gotten away. I should have gotten away sooner. I should have asked for help sooner. I should have, made apologies to my family now. I mean, whatever it is that you need to do to kind of like come back to that space of, I made a mistake of some sort, or, because then you own it and you're going to save yourself a whole heck of a lot of time and emotional energy towards getting back to the good life, the sweet life, when you say that. Because if you don't admit that to yourself consciously and kind of knowing what you know, then you're going to stay stuck. But as soon as you can make that admittance, you're going to blow through sort of that barrier that keeps you kind of being attracted to the same wrong thing, attracting the wrong person, and, deeming to repeat it again. And so really let this lesson learned be your own. And it doesn't make sense to hurt yourself anymore. So what you learn, it doesn't make sense for you to hurt yourself anymore or continue in a toxic relationship, to be used or to be exploited, to be misled, or to be constantly criticized or downgraded or feeling helpless. I mean, these are not, it's about being empowered. And yes, in the name of love, you should basically make a new calculation for like my next relationship. I am one of my new qualifiers. They can, this is the hair, this is the eyes, this is the figure, whatever it is, that you are attracted to in that woman or that man, doesn't matter. Put one of the new qualities in there that you're seeking is empathy and respect and honesty. A lot of people don't really get that until they've been through a couple of knee scrapers, in their relationship or in their life. That is basically, once you make that assessment, the other understanding that I want to bring to you today is that it's okay, because life wants you right there where you are. Life doesn't want you to be, picture perfect, healed already, not making any mistakes, or, not wanting any change, because really kind of the nature of life is change and improvement. So your life ahead is going to be that. It's just going to be that. It is going to be improvement. And so if you can realize that, to get like a little tinge of happiness, you know, about and excitement about your life, because it takes that juice and that excitement to be like, okay, I get it. Whew, you know, that was a tough one. And like, you know, we weathered that storm of relationship. So now, and we're going a little bit long today, so I'm going to just keep it going here. I mean, I'm not sure everybody's attention span, so hopefully you can continue here. So now you're more consciously aware. Once you make that admittance, you know, you're going to be coming from more of a higher consciousness or a learned state. So think of where you were when you were like a teenager, and think of where you are as an adult. So you've evolved in consciousness. Hopefully you've grown out of some of the bad habits of youth. And, you know, and then matured, become more distinguished, more defined, more mature, you know, higher in quality or higher in consciousness. So now we're going to take that even stronger. We're going to take it to a new higher consciousness, a higher quality of consciousness in learning these. And so, and now you're taking like a more conscious approach to the design or template from which you are coming out as or being attracted to. So rather than having it be sort of like this subconscious attraction, like immediate attraction, giving yourself a little bit of moment to evaluate the situation and to have those little bit of what I call personal templates or designs upgraded so that you are now coming from sort of a new outlook where before, yeah, maybe I wanted, this and this type of room, but I've learned that these type of windows, seep a lot and they're very energy inefficient. In other words, it's learning that perhaps what I thought was going to work is kind of like not going to hold water for me in the long run. It's not going to hold weight. It's not going to hold merit. It's not going to make me feel good or look good. In fact, it could be quite dangerous. Dangerous to me emotionally, psychologically, physically. I mean, do you want to end up in the doctor office, in the emergency room, in the bank, explaining things to your kids, these horrific situations when you can't focus psychologically? I mean, this gets pretty scary. And especially if you're, you don't want to, it gets bad. I mean, you've seen people who go on those talk shows and they're screaming and crying and throwing things and, going, then their life is, you've got a lot of situations going on, and we don't want that to happen to you whatsoever. You're too valuable. You're too wonderful. You're too amazing. You have too many talents to let that happen to you. So it's like reclaim it. So you now learn where to add or negate some things. Add some things to your blueprint, your template. I'm upping here, I'm upping there, I'm upping there. And furthermore, now I'm going to negate or erase this, and this. What was hitherto attractive to me, this and this person, lifestyle, me approaching relationships in the same way, might need to change up a little bit. So really kind of not only on just, a little bit of the superficial level, but on like a deeper level as well, and like learning how to distinguish that. Even if this has been an approach in relationships, as I mentioned, and also kind of how to tweak and alter how you present yourself. So, if what got you into trouble, you need to really take a good look at what got you into trouble. Were you too giving? Were you too kind? Were you too vulnerable? Were you too naive? Were you too needy? Were you too lonely? Were you down on your luck? Were you in between jobs? Were you stuck in some way? Were you hurting in some way that made you vulnerable? That got you into this relationship or got you in it for too long? Because most often, people will say that they had stayed with this person who is toxic for too long. And oftentimes it's because of that addiction or the false promises, until you really are working for a good percentage of the relationship to blow it out and get to the roots and the grittiness of it. As you can see, I go really in depth. So your approach to the relationship, was it your boundaries, your standards? Were your boundaries lowered? Were your standards lowered? And also I think the biggie change starts is where, like, just to be real now cognizant of that, and then to adapt that into your next time and go around, or really even, you know, kind of mold it into your now approach, you know, working in life, is that now kind of notice this on a more conscious level. Sort of kind of lesson learned, like, okay, I was attracted over there, you know, I was doing this, I was lowering my boundaries, I was lowering my standards, I did this and this, I flipped it, I did too much of this. Okay, and then like realize that, you know, maybe there's a lot of unconscious attraction which is causing this to be occurred. So we want to tweak it at that unconscious level, so you're not gravitating to those things which are really not attractive to you. So it's kind of like growing from it, growing out of it. And so that's what I'm gonna wrap it up there, because once you do that, you can kind of look out ahead with like a new eye, a new vision, a new heart, kind of a new sense of identity, because your identity really is your thoughts and your emotions and your cognitions and, you know, all these sort of temperaments that occur over time. So oftentimes these relationships can be, you know, very big identity changers. In other words, you know, really cause you to make a big personality change. So it is really then, but the beautiful thing is it's going to make you the wiser, the more distinct, the more distinguished, and the stronger. And as you continue to work that through time, you will automatically repel these troublemakers. You'll, in all areas of your life. I don't care if when you're at the doctor, getting your car done, doing your this, doing your shopping. I mean, you will have a keener, sharper eye having learned this, because it really does ripple into all areas of your being, your body, mind, and your spirit. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.